Well, hello brothers and sisters, and welcome to Mission Zero, and this is episode 12 of Flashback Friday. So, I know it's going to be posted and it'll be barely Friday anymore. I spent a bunch of time editing the message that I recorded, and I just wasn't crazy about it, so I wanted to give it another go. If you've been watching the vlogs, I got an Aramaic study Bible, and in it is a kind of a word of the day, and the word of the day for yesterday was yada. And yada means to know or to understand or to learn. And that got me really thinking about kind of the things we know versus what we know. Well, that got me really thinking about something that I haven't talked to you too much about, which is why language is so critically important to my faith and to Christianity and really to you, why it should be important to you. And so to illustrate that, I'm going to use a biblical verse, actually sort of a half of biblical verse. It's Isaiah 59:19. And to give you some context, Isaiah 59 is the prophet Isaiah talking smack to the whole of Israel for their lack of judgment. And so what he enters into this chapter talking about is, you know, there's so much corruption in Israel at the time, and nobody was punishing it. Nobody was upholding right virtues, just things were a mess, and he's telling the people, look, the Lord is going to smite you as a result of this. And so when you come into 59:19, he is being very specific about the punishment that the Lord is going to assign. Let me give you the King James interpretation. In the King James Bible, 59:19b, if you want to call it that, says, when the enemy comes like a flood, comma, the Spirit of the Lord will raise up a standard against him. That's super King Jamesy. Let me break that up a little bit. When the enemy comes in like a flood, hang on to that phrase, because I might come to it later. The Spirit of the Lord will raise up a banner against him. Raise up a banner is this very medieval idea of the men on horsebacks with the tall flags who would charge into battle, and that served two functions. It intimidated the enemy, and it motivated the troops. And so the translators working for King James I used this language because everybody in Brittany at the time would have known what it meant. We have a little bit less of that, and so a lot of the more modern interpretations of the Bible have chosen to do a slightly different phrasing of this verse. Take, for example, the NASB, which is kind of widely reviled to be the most accurate interpretation. What the NASB says, for he will come like a raging flood tide driven by the Spirit of the Lord. Damn, that's a hellfire and brimstone kind of a verse, right? This is, God's going to go smite some people. The problem with that is that's not accurate. Let me tell you, though, where that came from. In Jesus' time, the region that Jesus was born in Galilee, was predominantly speakers of Greek and Aramaic. Aramaic is sort of a descendant language of Hebrew. Well, in the synagogues of Galilee, there were kind of two flavors of Bible. There were the scrolls that were the pure Hebrew, sometimes a mixture of Hebrew and Aramaic, and then there was what we refer to as the Septuagint. And Septuagint is just a Greek word that means the 70. It's also sometimes referred to as the LXX Bible. This was a translation of the Old Testament into Greek. And the Greek rendition of 59:19 is, for the wrath of the Lord will come as a mighty river. It shall come with fury. You can see how that then, the NASB translators would pick up this idea that, okay, no, what we're talking about is that the Lord is going to come with strength against any who would oppose us. And that is true. But let me hearken back. I told you to hang on to a phrase, and the phrase I told you to hang on to was, when the enemy comes like a flood. This is a very specific phrasing that is used many times in almost every contemporary document around when the prophet Isaiah lived. The army of Egypt was referred to as the enemy that comes like a flood. because they had so many slaves, it was a limitless army. Now, okay, aside from being nitpicky literature, why do you care about that? Why would I care enough to tell you should care about this? I say this all the time. You can't take one idea separate from every idea in the Bible. And this is one of those cases. You miss the fundamental thing that Isaiah was trying to say. The nation of Egypt was so often discussed by Jews as a comfort zone. And this was Isaiah telling us about something metaphysical, something that is really important to us. We have such a tendency to flee back to our comfort zone. And what Isaiah is saying here is that's a dangerous game to play. The Spirit of God inside you will help you to overcome that by pushing you out into unfamiliar waters. We're supposed to push ourselves. We are supposed to challenge ourselves. We are supposed to step out into unfamiliar waters. And so there's my exhortation to you for this weekend is do something that you are really not comfortable with. And I'll actually go first. At 8 a.m. tomorrow, I have a vlog that we'll post that is going to change everything for me. So I hope you'll check that out. That's my message. I love you. God bless you. And may God pour out blessings upon you. And I love you. And peace out.